I woke up today in London as the plane was touching down. I need your love to hold me up when it's all too much to bear, when the light falls in around me. I don't think I'll make it through. Use your light to guide the way, 'cause all I think about is you.
Ladies and gentlemen, Noah Johnson from Wray, Colorado. Yeah. Listen to that for like another hour, Noah. That was beautiful. Thank you so much. Well, welcome for those of you who missed the introduction to the Wray High School Prairie Writers Zine release, which you will find copies on your table. Please help yourself to several copies. There's plenty more to share. And the next part, is there any Wray writers here who would like to read their pieces and share with us?
Okay. I'm Sam Wamira, and this is my short story. You're welcome. He woke as the car slowed to a crawl, turning onto a small driveway overgrown with cheatgrass and yucca plants. Brian groggily stared out his window, feeling a great deal of self-pity. Brian let go of his misgivings for a moment and embraced his fiancée as she came out of the living room to greet him. "How's it been in the big city?" smiled Judith, the love of Brian's life. They strolled, and eventually they crested a hill with the lake resting serenely on the other side. They made their way down towards the still blue water and stood on the dock, Judith watching the sunset over the hills across the lake. She was shaken from her trance by a flurry of motion. Brian stood beside her, swinging wildly at the air around him. "It's these cursed bugs, they're everywhere." Judith smiled and slid her arms around his shoulders. "It's all right, relax." Brian's expression softened, and he stopped his flailing at her touch. The tender moment lasted only a moment before Judith, in one swift motion, loosened her hold, grabbed him by the shoulders, and gave him a powerful shove. Unsuspecting, Brian stumbled backward, but his unfortunate lack of coordination caused him to lose his balance and topple headfirst into the lake below. He came up moments later, gasping for breath and trying frantically to rid his face of water while still remaining afloat. Judith forced her lips into a straight line to keep from a fit of hysterical laughter before extending her hand to pull Brian back onto the safety of the dock. Once back on dry land, rage overcame Brian. What in the world were you thinking?" Judith laughed. I just wanted to point out that there's more to life than worrying about dirtying your suit. If you'd stop worrying, you might enjoy your life more."
The sound of the wind rushes as I soar by, like a bird as I strive to touch the sky. Sunlit colors race past me in a mad dash to grab my attention. The colors comparable to the ones found in a faint rainbow as you are driving by. The cool breeze upon my cheeks, signaling the end of the day, the smell of the dampening earth as dew starts to form, and the wood-burning fireplace breathes out smoke. I race towards the sky, losing these senses as well as the time, weightless and free, with a sense of childhood wonder and joy, and then the full weight of the earth. All these things while I swing back and forth on the old, creaking swing set made of green pipe.
So, what's happening here is this is Gregory Hill, who is from Jos, Colorado, and he is an award-winning novelist. And he worked with the students on creative writing. So I'm going to pass the mic to him to read a few, either one or two of the pieces, and then he'll do a book reading for his own book.
I would like to congratulate all the students of Mrs. Rivas' classroom for the wonderful work, and people, they did revisions of their books, and I was just merciless in my editorial comments, and as far as I can tell, nobody freaked out and got angry about it. I've been very proud of everyone. This is one by Junior Arambula. Okay, there is only one Bear Grylls. Well, it was about that time of year when people go out, enjoy nature, go hiking in the bluffs. So we packed 2 Pepsi Colas and some rice cakes and stepped out of the front door to begin our journey. We started into the bluff, not even 20 feet from the front door. The view was filled with an array of colors and animals. Green weeds covered most of the bluffs. The bed of green was interrupted every 20 feet or so by a patch of yellow flowers. The smell of deer and rabbit dung and freshly watered weeds from the spring rains assaulted our noses. We ventured out and found the perfect cliff drop-off. The ledge was full of crumbly rocks and weeds coming out of the sides of the cliff. The cliff seemed impossible to scale up. We were also 4 feet tall at the time, and so everything seemed giant. However, about halfway up the cliff, he took a step up, and the rock slipped out from under him, sending him plummeting to the rocky, weedy ground. I laughed to the point of crying. Of course, when he had started crying, I got a bit serious. I went to the spot he fell. Luckily, he missed 2 sharp rocks that potentially could have made him into a Jasper kebab. He landed perfectly in between the rocks like a cartoon character would have hit the ground. After the crying, he got up, and I gave him a Pepsi, and we sat down and ate our meal for the day. Laughing, I said, "Well, that was a TV-worthy stunt." Jasper, thinking back to the show we had watched earlier that day, looked at me and said, "Guess there really is only one Bear Grylls." The end. Good job. So I write books, got 3 of them, and this is an excerpt from my most recent novel called Zebra Skin Shirt. And in that book, the main character is basically stuck in Yuma County, or a county similar to Yuma County, and time is frozen. So he's sort of walking around and everybody's like mannequins, and he does a lot of goofy stuff there and discovers some great deep philosophical things, and it's a fantastic book. It's just pure genius. Okay, I'm going to contextualize this a little bit so you know what you're getting into. Narwhal Slaughterfield, a corrupt basketball referee and philosopher of the absurd, has become trapped in time, alone in the midst of the empty and vast Great Plains of eastern Colorado. 29 blocks of Colfax, 2 more Vicodin, brought me to the gold-domed Capitol building, where I veered left and made the final 3 blocks to the Denver Art Museum. All modern angles and polyhedrons, as is the way of any architecturally relevant art museum in the 21st century. Turns out the museum closes at 5 o'clock on Tuesdays, putting me 2.5 hours late for any kind of dignified entrance. I walked around the outside of the building until I found a service door whose rubber wedge prop hadn't been properly kicked out by the last person to take a smoke break. Once inside, I followed exit signs backwards until I reached the public exhibits. There's a woman named Linda in the Denver Art Museum. She's been there forever. She's a hyper-realistic sculpture sleeping on her side, a white cloth draped over her pelvic privates. There's actual human hair in the follicles of her arms. I've always loved Linda. Everyone loves Linda. Now and again, the curators at the museum move her to a new room. You never know where you'll find her. When you do come upon her, every time you shit your pants because some sexy crazy lady with an out-of-date hairdo has stripped naked and passed out on one of the viewing benches. And then you say, "Oh, Linda, you got me again." After a great deal of searching, I found her in an exhibit of contemporary hairpieces. She didn't startle me at all this time. Sculpture Linda looked just like all the actual people all over Denver, or all the actual people looked like Sculpture Linda. I had been living within a still life for the last several weeks. Artistic renderings of it seemed redundant. In my cloudy, Vicodin state of mind, I slid Linda off her pedestal and floated her to the men's restroom and pressed her so she lay on the floor of the handicapped stall with her feet poking out from under the door. That ought to scare the shit out of somebody, and what better place for it? With that, any remaining shred of my personal prime directive floated away, at least with respect to art museums. Whistling without sound, I followed empty halls and climbed dead escalators until I reached the abstract art exhibit. There, I flipped a Jackson Pollock upside down. Moving out of the abstractions, I switched labels on numerous impressionist pond paintings. I placed a roll of toilet paper on a pedestal that was meant for a Grecian urn. I put a Grecian urn over the head of a bronze Frederick Remington horse. I found a black marker in the drawer at the information desk and used it, the black marker, to write Dada on the back sides of a whole wall of Cubist paintings. I was having fun.
And this is Harvest. The field is golden, the starched cornstalks rustle back and forth in the wind, their crispy husks crinkle. A bright fall sun, uncovered by clouds, shines down on the field. A brisk wind is blowing, making the bright sun lose its warmth. Loud machinery noise clanks and clinks, disrupting the serene silence. The whirring mechanical sounds contrast with the peaceful sounds of nature. Birds flock to the skies, forming lines and curves. A startled deer runs out from the trees to investigate the scene. Harvest time cannot be described with any other words but peaceful and joyous. That is, until the combine comes to a grinding halt. Harvest is at a standstill when the combine is out of order. The farmer wistfully thinks about vacation in February, so maybe harvest is best experienced as a fond memory during cold winter days in January. Whatever the case, harvest time will always be an unparalleled experience.
Mine is called Quicker Than the Wind. The wind out here on the plains can get pretty intense. You can lose your hat on one side of town, and the wind can take it clear to the other side in 5 minutes. The only other thing that travels this fast in a small town is definitely the gossip. But while I worked harder than ever to keep my mom on her meds, the whole town started getting suspicious about my scarcity at school and came to their own conclusions. This gossip infuriated me, but I respected my mother's wishes and did not tell anyone about her myeloma. I let the rumors fly. One Wednesday, she told me to go to school, something that she had not told me to do in over 2 months. So I found my school bag and I attended classes that day. When I got to the hospital to tell her about the most eventful day I've had in a while, I couldn't. She had passed away only 45 minutes before I got out of school. Even though I had to tell myself I was prepared for this, I was wrong. You'll never be prepared for anything like this. The whole town soon found out what had really been going on the last year and a half, and I had more food show up to my house than I knew what to do with. I had no idea that so many members of the community knew me and the person I had been. It amazed me how many people empathized with my situation. At a time when I felt that I would have no one, my whole town came together to support the quiet green girl. My mother's story affected so many people. Rumors may fly faster than the wind. However, gossip can also carry love and compassion from one person to another. Just when you think you found a bad characteristic of your small town, don't let it surprise you when you are proven wrong.
Yeah.
I would just say one thing about working with all you guys is I learned a lot about writing just from all the discussions we did. And one of the main things I learned was just how important it is to infuse emotion and self, like and the way the way you transform your piece. Like a lot of people did this. They would go from a story that would be more descriptive, and then after we talked about it in class, the revisions, you just be this emotional connection, and it was a fantastic thing to experience and witness and be a part of. So good job. The song's called Sweet Medusa. How does one have a relationship with a gorgon, a creature whose hair is composed of snakes? This will answer that question. Sweet Medusa with your lovely hair, I follow you most anywhere 10 feet behind, 'cause I'm not yet blind. Hey there Medusa, all your friends are made out of stone. Oh hey there Medusa, they're scattered all over your lawn. Look at them, they'd rather be dead than be wrong. Oh, sweet Medusa, I found a solution. A simple matter of substitution. I'll swap my eyes for some other guys, and I will retain my flesh as he turns statuesque. Oh, I dig your style, and I don't really like this place. I'd like to go hat shopping with you sometime, sweet Medusa.
That concludes our program, but there's still lots of food to enjoy. So please mingle and eat and drink and grab some copies of the Prairie Writers magazine. And congratulations, Wray Writers. You guys did a great job.